If you're watching this, your mind is probably racing right now with 3 different thoughts competing for attention. I'm about to show you an ancient technique that neuroscientists are now proving can shut down overthinking in under 60 seconds. Yogananda called it the mental emergency brake, and Andrew Huberman would lose his mind if he knew how few people are using this. I spent 2 years in complete silence at a meditation retreat, where Yogananda's direct disciples taught me techniques that the self-help industry deliberately keeps complicated. Because here's the truth, overthinking isn't a thinking problem. It's a nervous system problem, and in the next 20 minutes, I'm breaking down 5 mechanisms that will give you the same mental clarity that elite athletes and billion-dollar CEOs are paying $50,000 a year to access. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to interrupt thought loops before they spiral, how to create what I call cognitive white space on demand, and the one counterintuitive practice that makes your brain physically incapable of overthinking. Everything I'm showing you is backed by both ancient yogic science and modern neuroscience. And if you stay until the end, I'm revealing the 60-second practice Yogananda personally used before every major decision. No apps, no supplements, nothing to buy, just pure technique. Let's get into it. Content block 1, the breath pattern that breaks the loop. Here's what nobody tells you about overthinking. Your thoughts aren't actually the problem. The problem is your breath pattern is signaling to your nervous system that you're in danger, which keeps your prefrontal cortex offline and your amygdala running the show. Yogananda discovered this in 1926, and now we have the fMRI data to prove it. When you're overthinking, your breathing becomes shallow and chaotic, 12 to 15 breaths per minute. That's panic mode breathing. Your body thinks a tiger is chasing you, so your brain stays in threat assessment mode, spinning through scenarios, trying to find the danger. Here's the instant fix. It's called the Kriya counting breath, and it's stupidly simple but neurologically brilliant. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 6. That exhale is critical. Here's why. The vagus nerve, which controls your entire parasympathetic nervous system, has receptor sites in your lungs that only activate on the exhale. That 6-count exhale is literally telling your nervous system, stand down, threat eliminated, it's safe to think clearly now. Do this for 3 rounds, 90 seconds total, and watch what happens. The thought loop just stops. Not because you fought it or distracted yourself, but because you changed the underlying physiology that was fueling it. I use this before every major decision, before every podcast appearance, before checking my bank account, because when your nervous system is calm, your thoughts become signals instead of noise. Now here's where it gets interesting. Content block 2, the third eye technique, neural override. Yogananda taught something he called kutastha, focusing on the point between your eyebrows. Western science calls this the prefrontal cortex region. Same thing, different language. And this is where overthinking gets physically interrupted. When your attention is scattered, which is what overthinking is, your neural energy is fragmented across dozens of default mode network loops. You're essentially running 50 browser tabs simultaneously, and your mental RAM is maxed out. The third eye technique does something brilliant. It consolidates your attention into a single focal point. And when you do this, something called neural coherence happens. Your brain waves literally synchronize. Alpha waves increase, beta waves decrease. You move from chaotic thinking to concentrated awareness. Here's how you actually do it. Close your eyes. Direct your attention to the point between your eyebrows, slightly above. Don't strain, don't force. Just rest your awareness there like you're gently watching that spot. You might feel a slight pressure or tingling. That's normal. That's your neurons firing in coherent patterns instead of scattered bursts. Stay there for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. And here's what happens neurologically. Your brain interprets focused attention as, this must be important. Shut down the background noise. So all those intrusive thoughts about what you said in that meeting 5 years ago or what you're going to say in tomorrow's email, they fade to background static. I do this every morning for 5 minutes, and it's like defragmenting a hard drive. Everything runs smoother after. But this next one is the game changer most people miss. Content block 3, the opposite action protocol. Here's the paradox of overthinking that Yogananda understood, but modern psychology is just now catching up to. You cannot think your way out of overthinking. It's like trying to use a virus-infected computer to remove the virus. The tool itself is compromised. So instead of trying to think better thoughts or positive affirmations or any of that surface-level stuff, you do the opposite action. You move your body with intention. Yogananda called this energization exercises. Wim Hof accidentally rediscovered a version of this, and the neuroscience is undeniable. When you engage your motor cortex with deliberate movement, you physically cannot sustain rumination. Your brain literally doesn't have the bandwidth. Here's the protocol. When you catch yourself spiraling, and you will catch yourself if you're using the breath pattern from earlier, immediately do this. Tense every muscle in your body for 6 seconds. Full body tension. Fists clenched, jaw tight, everything engaged. Then release completely. Dead weight. Do this 3 times. What this does is create a pattern interrupt at the somatic level. Your nervous system cannot maintain the thought loop while you're sending it conflicting signals. The tension tells it we're taking action, we're solving the problem. The release tells it the problem is solved, stand down. Then immediately do 50 jumping jacks or 20 burpees or sprint in place for 30 seconds. Anything that spikes your heart rate and demands full body coordination. This isn't distraction. This is neural reprogramming. You're teaching your brain, when overthinking starts, we take immediate physical action, which means overthinking is a cue to move, not a cue to spiral deeper. I've coached executives who spent 10 years in therapy trying to think their way out of anxiety. 2 weeks of this protocol, and they're different humans because they stopped treating it like a mental problem and started treating it like a nervous system reset. Content block 4, the mental screen visualization. This one sounds abstract, but the results are concrete and immediate. Yogananda taught his students to visualize a mental screen, like a blank movie screen in the mind, and to observe thoughts as they appear and disappear on that screen. The psychological term for this is metacognition, thinking about thinking, and it creates distance between you and your thoughts, which is the entire game when it comes to overthinking. Most people are so identified with their thoughts that they don't realize they're having them. The thought, I'm going to fail, feels like a fact, not a thought. But when you visualize it appearing on a mental screen, you immediately recognize, oh, that's just a thought. It's not reality. It's not even a good prediction. It's just mental activity. Here's how you practice this. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Visualize a blank screen in front of you. Now just watch. Don't force anything. Thoughts will appear as words or images on that screen. Don't engage with them. Don't analyze them. Just observe them like you're watching a boring movie you have no investment in. A thought appears. Did I send that email? Let it appear. Let it dissolve. Another thought. What if they think I'm incompetent? Let it appear. Let it dissolve. Do this for 5 minutes, and you'll notice something wild. The thoughts slow down. The space between thoughts increases, and you start to recognize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching the thoughts. This is the difference between being trapped in a thought storm and observing a thought storm. Same thoughts, completely different experience. Yogananda said, when you realize you are not the thinker but the witness of the thinker, overthinking becomes impossible because you're no longer in the ring fighting your thoughts. You're in the audience, watching them. Content block 5, the evening mental cleans. This is the practice nobody teaches, but it's the most important one for long-term freedom from overthinking. Every night before sleep, you do a complete mental inventory and release. Yogananda taught this as part of his Kriya yoga system. But you don't need any spiritual framework. You just need 10 minutes and honesty. Here's the protocol. Sit or lie down. Close your eyes and mentally review your entire day from the moment you woke up until now. But here's the key. You're not judging anything. You're not rehashing mistakes or planning fixes. You're just observing. I woke up, I felt anxious. I had coffee, I sent that email, I felt regret. I had lunch. I worried about money. Just facts, no commentary. Now here's the neurological magic. When you consciously review and release the day like this, you're preventing your subconscious from processing it while you sleep. Because here's what causes morning overthinking and that 3 a.m. anxiety spiral, unprocessed mental material from the day getting chewed on by your subconscious all night long. By doing this conscious review, you're essentially telling your brain, I've looked at everything, I've acknowledged everything, there's nothing left to process. You can rest now. Then you end with this phrase, out loud or in your mind, I release this day completely. I am ready for deep rest. I started doing this 6 months ago, and my sleep quality went from a 5 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 according to my Whoop strap. But more importantly, I stopped waking up with my mind already racing, because I'd already done the mental housekeeping the night before. This is preventative maintenance for your mind. You wouldn't go weeks without showering. Why would you go weeks without mentally cleansing? So here's what you now know, that 99% of people struggling with overthinking don't. The 4-6 breath pattern that interrupts the loop, the third eye focus that consolidates neural energy, the opposite action protocol that breaks the rumination cycle, the mental screen visualization that creates observer distance, and the evening cleanse that prevents subconscious processing. These aren't hacks. These are fundamental nervous system resets that Yogananda understood 100 years ago, and that neuroscience is finally validating. Now, here's the bonus I promised. The 60-second practice Yogananda used before every major decision. It's called the AUM technique, but you don't need to know Sanskrit or believe in anything spiritual. Here's all you do. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and on each exhale, mentally say or hum the sound Om as long as the exhale lasts. That's it. 3 rounds, 60 seconds. What this does is activate the vagus nerve through the vibration in your throat and chest, which instantly shifts your nervous system into parasympathetic mode. Clear thinking, calm body, sharp decisions. Yogananda made 0 major life choices without this practice, and now you know why. If you got value from this, hit the like button so this reaches people who are suffering in silence, thinking their overactive mind is just who they are. Subscribe if you want more techniques that bridge ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. And turn on notifications, because next week I'm breaking down the Wim Hof cold exposure protocol through the lens of Yogananda's teachings on nervous system mastery. You're not going to want to miss that. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 5 practices you're implementing first. I read every single one. Now go reclaim your mental clarity. You've got important work to do, and you can't do it with a racing mind. I'll see you in the next one.